Here today with Ron Smith. And what branch of the military did you serve in?
I was active duty in the Army for 4 years, 2 years reserves, and 2 years Navy Reserve.
Oh, wow. Cool. When did you enlist?
August, I actually went in August of '75. I graduated in May, and I'd already signed up under delayed entry and
Uh-huh.
went in August.
Took the summer off and then
Yeah,
went in.
yeah.
That's awesome. Why'd you pick the Army?
Well, at the time, at first I tried to sign up in the Marines, but at the time they wouldn't take me because I was what they called a second degree flat foot.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and then when I went in the Army, I tried to go in infantry, and they wouldn't let me do it because of my flat feet. So they put me in artillery.
Okay.
So,
That's cool. Did you test into that, or they're just like, you're going artillery, that's it?
all my, well, I had the choice of that or some other stuff, but I wanted, at the time, Vietnam was just winding down,
Uh-huh.
and it actually ended in April. It's when their last pullout was, I believe, and I had a lot of friends that had been over, and I wanted to go in combat arms, so
Yeah.
I ended up in artillery. So
That's cool. Did you get to go overseas or anything? Or
2 years in Germany.
2 years in Germany.
Yeah.
How'd you like it?
I loved it.
And everyone says the same thing.
I loved it. That was of course during the Cold War when the Soviet Union was still big, and when I went to Germany, I got involved in special weapons, and because of that, I couldn't travel to any of the communist countries. I wanted to go to like Berlin,
Yeah, yeah.
but to get to Berlin, we couldn't go through East Germany. So I did do a lot of traveling. I went to Luxembourg, Belgium, France. I had a little German car that I bought, and just every weekend that I wasn't on duty, I was gone
Yeah,
someplace.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
You got something out of it. That's really cool. Most of the guys say the same thing about West Germany, especially that time period. That it was just the most awesome thing in the world.
It was really cool. I lived in a little town called Erlensee, and I learned a little bit of German. And when I traveled, I found out when I go to these little German towns, if I would try and speak German to them, most of them could speak English.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just went in there and you said, "Hey, I can't speak German. Can you speak English?" They wouldn't talk to you.
So they wanted the effort.
Yeah, if you'd make an effort, and they were really friendly. We had a good time
Yeah,
over there.
that's cool. Yeah, I mean, up until even now, German is still the second behind Spanish now, but at the time, German was the second language in the United States. I mean, if it was not Irish immigrant, it was German immigrants.
Saw some really good concerts over there.
I bet. So you got to tell me about that.
I saw Eric Clapton at an indoor bicycle track.
By himself? Was he in a band or by
Muddy
himself?
Waters was with him.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Eric Clapton was so stoned he couldn't hardly play.
That was towards the end of his heroin days.
Yeah,
Then. If it was
and,
75, yeah.
Saw Eric Clapton, David Coverdale and White Snake,
I bet that was cool.
Ted Nugent,
Yeah.
Uriah Heep, Atlanta Rhythm Section. I mean, just a whole group. We would go on weekends, usually take a train to wherever they was having a festival, and they would, at the time they were having big festivals. They had a couple 100,000 people there, and it was neat.
It's cheap. You
Yeah.
get in for
And we were
like,
young.
$5.
We were all 20 years old,
Yeah.
and sleep didn't matter a whole lot.
Yeah,
So,
and you didn't have families. You didn't have bills. You just had you and
yeah,
the experience.
it was good.
That's cool. Did you get any good records or anything over there while you're over there? Or?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got some. My wife at the time, she worked at the PX, and when new albums would come out that we wanted, new LPs, she would get first dibs on them.
Uh-huh.
Like Leonard Skinner, when they had their plane crash,
The Street
they
Survivors.
had issued that album
the flame cover.
up,
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
up in flames,
Yeah, yeah.
and they recalled it.
Yeah.
Well, we got one of those and didn't give it back.
Really?
Yeah, but just a
Yeah,
lot of good music.
Yeah, that first pressing of the Street Survivors is a big deal. It's not a cheap record because they were pulled, and so you had like I'm a collector myself, and
I know, that's why I said
I've got
that.
about 1,300, and the thing you find is that the limited pressings are always going to be the most expensive, and that wasn't an intended limited press because I mean. I think I'm doing a record collection for it because they're here next Friday, so I'm going to do it on Saturday. for Street Survivors. And when I was researching it, that album went gold in 10 days after its release. Partly because of the plane crash, because it just went into the media. But so that's a big deal that you would. I mean, it's really good on MCA because they didn't have to recall it, and that's a huge expense to like put out thousands and thousands of records and then say, okay, we'll cover the cost of getting it back, and either destroying the covers or replacing the covers with the new one. But yeah, that's cool. If you still got it, it might be worth something.
Yeah, we got it. I got that before it was even out of the store.
Yeah,
before the store
God,
put it on the shelf.
Yeah,
but yeah, I enjoyed it. I over there for 2 years. 2 years at Fort Riley, Kansas. Fort Riley was the coldest place I've ever been and the hottest place I've ever been.
That's how Kansas is, man.
And
it's hot, humid summers and blisteringly cold, snowy winters. It's the worst. So you went 2 years of reserve afterwards, just to stay in, or just
when you? I don't know what it is currently, but when you enlisted, and at that time you had a commitment of X number of years. I believe it was 6 years, and so after I got out, instead of just being in active reserve, I went ahead and went reserve, and I went into a medical unit.
Okay.
And I was in preventive medicine.
Okay. So then after that, you said Navy, just
Navy reserves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been a mechanic. I like to work on things, metal, and I was actually having a beer with a Navy recruiter, and he said, "You ought to come over to the Navy, man. We can teach you to do this. We can teach you," and they did. They really did. It was. They taught me how to weld, how to use some machine tools I had never used. So it was interesting. It was the Navy. The job I had in the Navy was a hull technician, and it was a lot more interesting than the job I had in the Army.
Yeah, and that that's cool because we've brought up this theme before, and that's you get what you put into it out of it. So if you go in wanting a trade like that, the military is a hell of a place to do that because they will train you.
Back when I had a friend who was a single mother, and she brought her son when he was in high school, brought him over to our house. So he was doing bad in high school. He was with trouble, in a lot of trouble all the time. And she said he wants to go in the Army. And she said, "What do you think?" And we sat down and talked. And I said, "Whatever you do," I said, "pick something that you can use when you get out."
That's home run.
And he went in avionics, and he retired from the Army 2 years ago, I believe, as a first sergeant and with a master's degree in avionics from Embry-Riddle.
That's awesome.
And I think he's making about 80 to 100 grand a year down in Florida. That's working awesome. For an aviation company.
That's super cool.
So that's one of my best successes.
Yeah, but that's awesome that you gave him that advice because that's a home run, and you're right on the money, and it worked for him, and it's a good thing. And that's the thing I've always said is some guys need that, and women need that, and that's really cool that you did that.
When I got out, I didn't know what I was going to do. Like I said, I'd been a mechanic. So I got a job in Springfield as a mechanic. Two of the guys that I was full-time, 2 part-time guys were firefighters. And they kept trying to talk me into getting on the fire department. You need to become a firefighter. You'd love it. You need to be a firefighter. You'd love it.
You had the background, too, because you're in the medical.
I did some firefighting in the Navy. I take firefighting training. And I took the test and got hired in '83, and I don't regret it at all. It's a stressful job, but it's a job that has a lot of rewards.
Yeah, you can feel pride in it, and it's an exclusive group too.
We've got and there, if you would look at firefighters and law enforcement officers, you'll find a lot of veterans.
Oh yeah,
in those groups.
Huge. Yeah, most times, and a lot of MPs that go in to be MPs, so they can get the law enforcement training when they get out and go straight in. Same deal with firefighters. That's really cool. I know what you guys do. I actually did an internship, a 24-hour ride along with the Branson West Department years ago, and it was crazy. We had some stuff happen while I was there, but the training side of it. You guys. It's not like you can just show up and put your suit on. It's a constant. You have to be constantly doing that stuff and working on it and building and getting better, and that's awesome.
I've been involved in it 34 years.
And so now you're with the Nixa Fire Department.
I'm with
correct?
Nixa now. I retired from Springfield and stayed out of it. Well, I actually was on a board at another department on the board of directors. And then this position came open at Nixa in the fire prevention. And I went down there because when I retired from Springfield, I was a fire marshal. And I like the fire prevention because if you do a good enough job at fire prevention, hopefully you don't have to put them in a body bag.
Yeah, and that's important. You're solving the problem before there is a problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what do you do now as far as the fire prevention stuff?
Code inspections and public education. And
So you go around the schools and stuff like that?
no, well, some of the schools, but mostly with businesses.
Okay.
Because down in Nixa, I've been down there just a little over a year, and they have some of the most innovative small businesses down there I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They have some just awesome things down there.
That's cool.
They've got guys down there that have invented products they're selling them all over the world, and people don't realize
Yeah.
it.
Oh, I do my internship stuff, and that's something that I've caught on big time, especially in this area, is how much it's incredible how many things are going on in this area that are such on a huge scale. But locally, we never know about it. You never hear about it because most of the time the guys are like, "Oh yeah, I just do steel or something." And it's like, "Well, dude, you're building those damn steel things for breweries all over the world, or they're shipping these canisters that you're welding to China, or you know what I mean." And it's not like we're a huge industry thing here in Springfield, but it allows for that to exist, and I think that's a really cool thing.
I was in a business yesterday. They build safe rooms.
Yeah.
And out of steel. And they had a machine there that can cut like 60 parts at once. It uses a laser to cut quarter-inch steel.
Yeah.
I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's not cheap equipment either. It's funny. One last thing. When you do the inspections, and that was one of the things that we did in Branson West. They have to do all those theater inspections.
Yeah.
And man, you want to talk about some shoddy electrical setups? Like, I mean, and those guys, and I'm talking like even at Mickey Gilly's place, they were like, "All right, dude, you got to do that. That's not cool. That's not good. That's not cool. That's not good." And your job, as a from an outside perspective, I could say like I could see the business owners like, "Oh God, fire marshal," but really, your job is almost as an insurance guy to say, "Look, this is going to end up costing you way more money than having to go rewire that."
And that's what I do. Down there, I don't have the authority I had in Springfield, which is not a problem because people, by human nature, they want to be safe. I mean, there are people that take risks that they don't need to. But as a rule, most people, when I recommend, I say, you need to do this.
Yeah.
And then it's not an issue.
Yeah.
But my military time and my time, all my years in the fire department, I really don't have people question a whole lot.
Yeah.
You know, but of
Experience.
course, I had a business in Springfield too, so I know they've got payroll to make.
Yeah.
So I don't go in and making demands from them that are unreasonable.
Yeah, yeah.
But I do. I like working down there. It's really a good position. Like coming here today.
Yeah.
They support the veterans down there.
That's cool.
The American Legion post down there has got a big thing coming up, a fundraiser, and it's going to be in June. But so that's what I do.
That's cool. Well, Ron, thank you so much for having lunch with me today and your continued service in and out of the military.
Appreciate it, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah, my son's